some of you that have seen my past talks might have heard me say this, but telling people how and why to do the right thing actually does not significantly change people. So I'm going to share some tips now on how you can actually change people without banging your head against the wall by telling them how and why. So the first tip that I learned is to be draconian and make it hard to do the wrong thing. So I can actually see you, or I'm going to ask that you think that I can see you, and I can see if you're paying attention to this webinar right now. You might have noticed that you can see me on the corner, on the bottom right corner of your screen. And the reason why I'm recording it with my face is because studies have shown that even just putting a picture of eyes or a mirror where people do the wrong thing actually helps them do the right thing. So they did a study and they found that mirrors actually work much better than just a picture of maybe creepy eyes. So keep that in mind as you're trying to get people to do the right thing. Maybe think about where you can put mirrors, or maybe even for yourself, if you feel like there's something you don't want to be doing, you could put a mirror there and see how it goes. So another tip is to make them do good with incentives. So some of you might have heard that Whole Foods offers a discount. If you weigh less, you pay less. So that's one way to get people to do the right thing, by staying healthy. And another tip I learned is to try to talk like Ted. Anytime you speak to anyone, it doesn't have to be in a meeting, it could just be one-on-one. But if you haven't seen any TED Talks, be sure to do that right after this talk. And I'll share a few tips on how you can talk like Ted. So there's this great TED Talk called Talk Nerdy to Me, and the main point of her talk is make things simple, sound like a human. She says, sure, you can say spatial and temporal, but why not just say space and time? I think a lot of us maybe are really deep in the scientific world, and sometimes scientific words just go over people's heads and they will just tune out. So talk nerdy to people. And this is Melissa Marshall's talk. Another great tip is how our body language shapes who we are. So Amy Cuddy, should definitely see her talk, or at least if you don't see her talk, whenever you do talk to people, imagine yourself as Wonder Woman, because sometimes it helps to just come across as confident or fake it until you make it. But definitely see her talk, because she has a great way of telling her story, and it's not just about, it's just a lot, there's a lot more to her story than what I'm showing right now. And then when you talk to anyone, especially when you're trying to change anyone, be sure to start with a quirky story about yourself. It doesn't even have to be about how you do good. But people, think of all the times you heard a stranger telling you what to do. You're more likely to do something for someone when you actually know a little bit about them. So the crazier, the weirder, and the raunchier, and the stinkier the image or your story, the easier it is for your listeners to recall and for them to remember you. And I'm going to tell you a story about me. My friend was visiting her out of town the other day, and she just reminded me that about 12 years ago we went camping, and I couldn't find a place to recycle a tuna fish can. So I brought it in the car, and we ended up driving all the way from Big Sur for several hours back up to the bay with this very smelly tuna fish can. And this just goes to show that if I can kind of keep this can around and not throw it away until I find a place to recycle it, maybe you could keep that maybe not so smelly can of whatever it is that you have, and keep it until you find a place to recycle it. So that's a little bit about me. Another tip I learned is to try to be fun. Instead of inviting people to a meeting or training or workshop, invite them to, you could call it like a happy hour with mocktails. We just tried that this year, and we still had our meeting. We talked about all the boring and serious and important things we had to talk about, but we did have a little bit of finger food. We had some mocktail juice just to keep it a little bit fun. And then rather than saying people aren't interested, you could say, well, maybe I'm not doing a great job of telling the story. So try to nail things with a great one-liner. And this is a really great tip from Eli Pariser, who is the CEO of Upworthy. And if you haven't seen Upworthy, you definitely should, because they do a great job of one-liners and engaging people through social media, through news and social media. And he's partnered with a managing editor from The Onion. So you can imagine that their headlines are funny. And they created Upworthy because they noticed that a lot of things that get shared online are basically cute animals. But there's just more to life and more we need to do than just look at cute animals. So they do a really great job of creating what they call a curiosity gap, which prompts people to click on things. So I'm not going to steal their thunder. You can check it out yourself. And I just learned that there are comedy colleges. So if you find a good one, tell me about it, and maybe we can go together, because I think everyone should go to comedy college, because the world we just need to be funnier. We need more funny. So when you do meet with people, what else can you say? Well, think if I asked you to try a small, strange thing, and if I asked you to do that, it gets you to stop and think. Then you're more likely to try it. That's what studies have shown. So I encourage you to do that when you're talking to anyone, to try to get them to do anything. So one idea is maybe to prevent illegal dumping, like people dump all these things like abandoned waste. Maybe we could put a mirror on dumpsters to have people see themselves before they do the wrong thing, and have a sign like this to help them know how to do the right thing. So if you actually end up doing this, please tell me, because then maybe I can convince more people here in San Francisco to maybe try this. And when you do talk, try to avoid sharing statistics or charts unless it's of people who do the right thing, not the wrong thing. So what do I mean? Well, this is a great quote that I read from this article, where 7% of large companies give bonuses if their executive meets green goals. But it's worded like only 7%, like not that many people are doing it. What if it was worded like this? 42 huge companies give bonuses if executives meet green goals. This might motivate people more. It's worth trying, because we know how hard it is to get huge companies to change anything. So 42 to me seems like a lot. And then you may already know this, but how many of us actually remember to tell people what's in it for them? So one example you could use is to tell people that toxic flame retardants can lower your IQ, make you antisocial, and lower male hormones. So what's in it for you if you avoid flame retardants is maybe your IQ won't be lowered, and maybe you won't lose any male hormones. And I was going to put a really funny photo of a man on a laptop, with a laptop on a donkey, but I didn't get a chance to get photo permission. So I'm going to ask you to just imagine this man and maybe Google it, because he's out there. And I don't know why. Maybe his IQ is lowered. I don't know why, but you should check it out.